I notice the silence first. It hums behind the refrigerator, low and constant, like a breath someone forgot to take. I sit at the kitchen table, the same one I bought with my husband in 1979, and open the morning's mail. Except there isn't any. There hasn't been for 3 weeks. I tell myself the postal system is slow. I tell myself perhaps the world no longer has anything to say to me. But then, last week, a thin envelope arrived, addressed not to me, but to the estate of Margaret Fairchild. I am alive. I am sitting here buttering toast, and yet someone has written me out of existence. When I call my daughter Lydia, she laughs, the practiced kind of laugh that slides like oil. "Oh, Mom, these companies always mix things up. Don't worry about it." But I do worry. Because Lydia used to call me Mother, never Mom. I sit for a long time, staring at the salt on the toast, thinking of the beach house, the one my late husband, Arthur, built for our anniversaries, white shingles, blue shutters, a place where our laughter used to echo across tides. Lydia loved it more than anyone. She said it smelled like money and freedom. I thought it smelled like salt and grief. She's been managing my finances since Arthur passed. She said she'd help because these online things are complicated, Mom. I agreed. It felt easier. I was tired. And I wanted her to love me the way she once did when she was little, before her voice hardened into polite efficiency. Now I see the mistake in that wish. Today, she visits. I hear the sharp click of her heels before I see her. Lydia never enters softly. "Hi, Mom," she says, air-kissing the air near my cheek. She's already glancing around, assessing like an auditor in heels. "Did you get the notice from the realtor? We might need to sign some forms." I blink. Realtor. She waves her manicured hand. "Oh, nothing serious. Just some preliminary papers. You remember the beach house, right? We talked about how much maintenance it costs, and you said." I said I didn't want to sell it. Her eyes flick up. There it is, that glint of irritation buried under concern. "You said you'd think about it." I didn't. I would remember if I had. She talks for another 5 minutes. About property taxes, about inflation, about my limited mobility and unnecessary burden. The language is surgical, precise, rehearsed. By the time she leaves, I feel smaller, reduced to figures and liabilities. That night, I cannot sleep. I walk to the hallway cabinet where Arthur's old briefcase rests. I open it. Inside, the original property deed. My name, his name, not hers, ours. The paper trembles slightly in my hand, not from the wind, but from me. Weeks pass. Strange things begin to happen. Bank statements arrive unsealed. Some disappear altogether. Lydia insists she's handling it. She installs a new phone plan to protect me from scams. My landline dies the next morning. She smiles too kindly when she visits, as though I am a fragile vase that might break under truth. At dinner one evening, I ask, "Lydia, have you changed the account passwords?" She freezes, fork midair. "You really shouldn't stress about those things, Mom." I'd like to see them. I'll print them out. But she never does. I begin to test her, small things. I intentionally leave a blank check in the desk drawer. It's gone the next day. I pretend to forget a conversation to see if she'll correct me. She doesn't. Instead, she fills in the blanks with stories that never happened. "Remember, you said you wanted me to take care of everything." She's rewriting my memory, line by line. The realization doesn't come like thunder. It comes like drizzle, constant, quiet, inescapable. I start keeping a notebook. Every call, every visit, every missing envelope. Dates times tone of voice. A record of my own fatting world. Sometimes I wonder if I'm being paranoid. Then I find the envelope from the bank, slit open and resealed with tape that isn't mine. Inside, a letter addressed to Lydia Fairchild, confirming her as the new joint owner of the beach property. Joint owner. I feel the air thin. The walls seem to tilt. My breath catches like thread in a needle. For a long moment, I do nothing. Then I laugh softly, almost fondly. Of course you would call it joint. I sit by the window all night. The street outside is empty, the lamplight quivering in fog. I think of the years I spent sewing her dresses, paying her tuition, covering her debts when she called them temporary setbacks. I think of every time I said, "It's fine, darling, you'll pay me back when you can." And now she's paying me back, with silence. I open the old photo album. There she is, age 6, covered in sand at the beach house, holding a seashell like a trophy. Her smile is open, genuine, sun-drenched. Somewhere between that child and this woman, something hardened. Maybe it's my fault. Maybe I gave her too much. Maybe generosity becomes invisible when it's endless. In the morning, I visit the bank. The clerk looks uncomfortable, glancing at her screen, then at me. "Mrs. Fairchild, I see the co-ownership transfer here. It was approved 2 months ago." Approved by whom? She hesitates. By your power of attorney. My power of attorney. Lydia. I feel heat crawl up my throat. Can you print the authorization documents? I'm afraid only the authorized party can request copies. I nod, smiling politely, as if I'm not unraveling. Outside, the wind tastes of metal. My reflection in the glass doors looks older than yesterday, cheeks hollow, eyes clear. I realize clarity ages a person faster than time. That night, Lydia calls. "Mom, I've got good news. I've sold the beach house. We're going tomorrow to finalize everything. You'll love the new buyers. They're a sweet young couple who will take great care of it." The word sold lands like a blade. My voice doesn't shake. "You sold it." Her tone brightens like she's praising a child. "Yes, and it's such a relief, isn't it? You'll finally be free from all that maintenance. You can focus on yourself." Focus on myself. How generous of her to let me keep me. I listen until she finishes. Then I say, "All right." Just that. Because she doesn't need to know what I've learned. Not yet. After the call, I pour tea, though I don't drink it. The steam curls like ghosts above the cup. I sit at the table, the same table where Arthur and I once discussed mortgage rates, laughter punctuating every decision. He believed in preparation. "Paper leaves a trail," he used to say, "but silence leaves footprints." I open my notebook. I draw 2 columns, theirs and mine. Under theirs, power of attorney, forged consent, false concern. Under mine, property deed, notary signature, recorded calls. I am learning the anatomy of theft. It has no gunshot. It bleeds politely. I find an old tape recorder in the drawer, dusty but functional. When Lydia visits again, I leave it running under a stack of magazines. Her voice fills the room with sugar. "Mom, you remember signing that sale document, right?" I tilt my head. "Remind me what it looked like." "Oh, it was that one I brought when we renewed your will. The same day, actually." "Ah." The day she poured me wine. The day I signed papers without reading. Because her eyes looked so loving, I didn't want to question them. She talks more, revealing details she shouldn't. When she leaves, I replay the tape. Her voice sounds different without her perfume clouding the air. Clearer, meaner. I make a copy, then another. At night, I dream of the sea. The beach house stands silent against a bruised horizon. I walk through its empty rooms. My husband's chair faces the window. The tide comes in, erasing our footprints. I wake before dawn, strangely calm. Loss isn't always destruction. Sometimes it's instruction. I fold the deed, the letter, the tape, and tuck them into a manila envelope. I write one name on it, Attorney Helen Graves. She used to be my friend before Lydia told me to stop living in the past. The past, I realize, is the only place still loyal to me. By evening, I've arranged the meeting. Lydia calls again, chirping about departure times. I listen, nodding into the receiver, though she can't see. "Yes, darling, tomorrow sounds perfect." After I hang up, I look around the house. Every framed photo feels like a witness. The clock ticks like an accomplice. I am not angry anymore. Anger is loud, and loud things draw attention. I prefer precision. I sit down, open my notebook, and write the last line for today's entry. She believes she's taking me to sell my past. She doesn't know I've already bought her future. Then I close it, neatly, as one might close a coffin lid. The silence returns. It's no longer frightening. It's familiar, obedient. The kind of silence that waits for command. I stand, stretch, and look out at the night. The moon glints on the garden tools hanging in the shed, their shadows long and harmless. For now. The kettle whistles softly in the background, steady and calm. It sounds almost like applause. Tomorrow, she'll drive me to the closing office. Tomorrow, I'll let her hold the pen first. Tomorrow, she'll sign her own undoing. And tonight, I'll sleep beside the storm I've been pretending not to feel. Because every theft begins quietly. And every reckoning does too. Something stirs behind the refrigerator's hum, soft, deliberate, patient, as though the silence itself has finally decided to listen. The next morning, I tell Lydia I've misplaced my insurance folder. It's not true. I know exactly where it is, bottom drawer, left side, beneath the photo of my wedding day. But I've learned that to catch a liar, you must invite them to lie again. "Oh, Mom," she says, laughing softly over the phone. "You're always misplacing things. I'll print new copies for you." Perfect. I sip my tea, watching the steam twist like the handwriting of a ghost. Each curl feels like a question mark forming in the air. When she arrives later, she's all efficiency and perfume. "Here," she says, placing a neat folder on the table. "This is everything you need. I even organized it by category." Her smile is dazzling, symmetrical. She should have been a politician, not a daughter. I thank her and set the folder aside, pretending not to notice the missing forms, the ones that matter, the ones with my name. For the next few days, I practice what I call strategic confusion. I ask her to explain things twice, then again. I let her believe I'm slipping. It makes her careless. "You already signed that, remember?" she says once, impatient, tapping her manicured nail on the paper. I don't remember, but I nod anyway. The pen feels heavier now. When I sign my name, it doesn't look like mine anymore. It looks like something she's borrowed. At night, I write everything down. Dates, names, what she said, what she didn't say. Each note feels like a heartbeat. The notebook has become my second pulse, a record of what the world is taking from me. I start scanning old documents, hiding the copies in an encrypted flash drive I label recipes. I'm not sure if that's brilliant or pathetic, perhaps both. A week later, I visit the bank again. I wear my best coat, the navy wool one Arthur loved. I bring my notebook and the folder Lydia made. The young teller looks up, startled. "Mrs. Fairchild back again." "Yes," I say, smiling like a woman who still bakes pies for the church bazaar. "I just need to verify something." He nods, takes the papers. His expression changes halfway through the review. It seems the joint account was adjusted. Adjusted. "Your daughter added a beneficiary clause. It's legal, but unusual." I lean closer. "Could I have a copy of that clause?" He hesitates, then prints it. "Technically, yes, since you're still a signer." I thank him, fold the paper, and slide it into my purse. It feels heavier than it should, like it's holding a truth too dense for air. That night, I reread the clause by lamplight. The language is elegant, serpentine, crafted to deceive with courtesy. It grants Lydia temporary authority over financial decisions in the event of cognitive decline. I trace the phrase with my finger, cognitive decline. So that's the story she's weaving. I whisper it aloud. The words sound foreign, like they belong to someone else's obituary. I remember a lecture Arthur once gave at the university. "Paper doesn't lie," he said. "People lie, but paper stays loyal to its maker." Now, his wisdom feels ironic. Lydia has become the maker. I start copying. Every line, every page. I buy a small scanner from the electronics store, the kind meant for students. The young clerk shows me how it works. He doesn't know he's arming me for war. At night, the machine hums like a secret prayer. Each scan feels like a whispered confession, hers, not mine. The glow of the screen paints my kitchen in cold blue light. My hands tremble, not from fear, but from focus. By the third night, I've digitized 42 documents. I rename the files after seabirds. Heron, gull, albatross, she'll never guess. I upload them to a cloud drive under Arthur's old email, long abandoned. He never liked technology, but I think he'd approve of this. Lydia visits again on Sunday. She brings pastries, smiles, and another document. "We just need to update your will," she says, casually sipping coffee. I study her face. She looks radiant, unburdened. I think of the daughter who once cried over scraped knees, the one who begged me not to leave her at school. "Of course," I say gently. "I trust you." The words taste metallic in my mouth. When she slides the document across the table, I notice the faint scent of toner ink and roses. She leans close. "You just need to sign here and here." I take my time reading the lines, even though she sighs. I can see her nails tapping again, tiny claws against the wood. "I don't sign, not this time." "Why don't I have my lawyer take a quick look?" I say. Her face freezes, then rearranges itself. "You don't need to bother Helen. She's retired." I nod slowly. Still, she loves paperwork. There's a beat of silence so tight it could cut glass. Then she laughs too loud. "You're impossible, Mom." I smile. "You taught me well." After she leaves, I sit in the quiet again. I open the new document. It's clever, too clever. A single sentence would have transferred not just property, but medical authority. She'd own my body and my home in one stroke. I run my fingers along the edge of the paper. Sharp, like her. I scan it, name it Vulture, PDF. Days blur. I pretend to forget birthdays, recipes, appointments. It helps her relax. She starts sending me digital copies of things just in case. Each email is a breadcrumb. I open one late at night. It's an account statement. $120,000 withdrawn last month. Reason: property maintenance and legal fees. There is no property maintenance. No legal fees. Just her smile widening somewhere over a champagne glass. I print it, highlight it, and tuck it into the envelope marked evidence. Phase I. Sometimes I wonder if I've become like her, manipulative, deceitful. But then I remember the ache in my chest when she told me, "It's all for your own good." That's the language of the thief who calls herself savior. So I sharpen my guilt into strategy. I contact Helen Graves discreetly. She still remembers me. "Margaret," she says, her voice warm but wary, "what's going on?" I explain in fragments, just enough to make her curious. "I'll look into it," she promises, quietly. Quiet is all I want. She calls back 2 days later. "You were right. Several signatures are irregular, forged, I'd say, cleverly but not perfectly." Something inside me exhales for the first time in months. "Send me copies," I whisper. "Already did." When I hang up, the world feels newly defined, every shadow with sharper edges. I start filing the proof. I buy colored folders, red for forged, blue for transferred, yellow for suspicious. My drawers look like crime scenes organized by hue. Each morning, I sit with my tea and label another document. Sometimes I speak to Arthur, half out loud. "You'd like this part," I tell him. "The precision." In the afternoons, I shred the duplicates Lydia gave me. I let the strips fall like snow into the bin. Paper has a sound when it dies, soft, relieved. Lydia calls again. "Mom, we need to finalize the sale paperwork tomorrow. Are you ready?" "Almost," I say, "just finding the originals." "Don't worry about those. The lawyer has copies." I glance at the blue folder on the table, the one labeled lies. I'm sure she does, I murmur. When I hang up, I mark the date in my notebook. Tomorrow, the theater begins. That evening, I visit the beach house one last time alone. It's empty now, stripped of furniture. The walls echo when I breathe, but the sea still smells like home, salt, memory, and defiance. I walk through the rooms with my flashlight. There's the faint outline of our old painting on the wall, the one Lydia sold years ago for upkeep. I kneel and press my hand to the floorboards. They creak like old bones. Beneath them, I hide a sealed envelope, a duplicate set of everything, just in case. Because betrayal may burn paper, but it cannot burn redundancy. As I lock the door, the moonlight catches in the keyhole. It looks like an eye watching. For a fleeting second, I think of forgiving her. But forgiveness, I've learned, is just another form of permission. And I've given enough of that. When I return home, I place the final document in the envelope for Helen. The air in the room feels different, charged, awake. I realize the strangest thing. I'm no longer afraid. I'm documented. Every sin, every theft, every manipulation archived, cataloged, dated. If Lydia's weapon was charm, mine is evidence. If hers was invisibility, mine is permanence. I smooth the envelope shut, my fingers trembling not from weakness but anticipation. Tomorrow, she'll think I'm coming to sign papers. Tomorrow, she'll smile the way she always does, like mercy wrapped in silk. And tomorrow, I'll arrive not as her mother, but as her witness. Because betrayal isn't discovered. It's read. And I've learned to read everything. Somewhere between the folds of the paper, something shifts, the sound of a story rewriting itself, one signature at a time. When I was younger, Arthur used to say storms do arrive, they assemble. A gust here, a chill there, clouds gathering without announcement. That's how revenge begins, not with rage, but with recognition. I recognized myself again on a Thursday morning, standing in front of the mirror, brushing my silver hair. For months, my reflection had been someone's mother, someone's burden, someone's fool. But that morning, I caught a glimpse of my eyes. They were not kind anymore. They were awake. Lydia believes I've accepted everything, the forgery, the lies, the theft. I've learned to nod at the right moments, to say, I understand. It's astonishing how quickly predators stop looking when their prey stops struggling. She still visits, of course, brings pastries, brings charm. Sometimes she brings her husband, Daniel, who never looks me in the eye. They sit at my kitchen table, the one I've turned into a crime lab of tea and patience, and discuss future plans. I let them talk. I stir sugar into my tea with quiet precision, each clink of the spoon a metronome of deceit. They mistake my silence for surrender. It's not. It's loading. I've hired Helen Graves, quietly. She meets me in the back booth of a small cafe 3 towns over, away from the whispers of our polite little neighborhood. She's aged like marble, still elegant, still sharp. When she takes my hand, her eyes soften only slightly. I've read everything, she says. Your daughter, been thorough, but not careful. What do we do? Her smile is surgical. We build the case brick by brick. No emotion, no noise. Paper wins wars. I nod. Paper, I have plenty of that. She hands me a small recorder. Start collecting her words. Words are contracts too, Margaret. When I hold it, I feel something stir in me, an old instinct, the one that once balanced checkbooks and raised a family on rationed wages. Competence. Forgotten, but not lost. The first recording is simple. A phone call. Lydia reminding me to keep quiet about the sale until everything's finalized. I play it back afterward, her voice suddenly stripped of sweetness. Deception sounds different when it's captured. It's brittle, it breaks easily. I make more recordings. I keep them organized in a shoebox labeled donations. Irony suits me. Lydia begins to boast more openly. Maybe she feels untouchable now that the house is gone. One evening, she invites me to dinner at her place. I go. Her friends are gathered around a long glass table, faces powdered, laughter rehearsed. She introduces me as, "My sweet mom, Margaret. She's been such a trooper through all these transitions." Transitions. That's what she calls theft now. I smile, polite and small. My hands shake only slightly, but not from weakness, from control. It takes effort not to reveal satisfaction when people incriminate themselves publicly. As the wine flows, Lydia grows bolder. "Once everything's settled," she says, voice bright, "I'll finally have the liquidity to renovate the beach house, maybe even rent it out for the summer." I tilt my head. "Oh, I thought you sold it." The table goes quiet. Her friends exchange glances. Lydia laughs too loudly. "Just kidding, Mom. You're mixing things up again." "Oh," I say softly. "Yes, I must be." I let them laugh. Inside, I record every word. That night, I sit awake by the window. The city hums in the distance, 1,000 lights blinking like surveillance cameras. I feel watched, but not by fear, by justice, waiting for me to act. I start compiling everything: voice files, forged documents, email printouts. I keep them in separate envelopes. Helen told me, redundancy is survival. She was right. Daniel visits me alone a few days later. He looks uncomfortable in his suit, as if decency is strangling him. "Lydia, under a lot of stress," he says, not meeting my eyes. "She's always been under something," I reply. He flinches. "Please don't make this harder for her." "Harder?" I smile faintly. "She's stealing from me, Daniel." He swallows. She just wants to make sure you're taken care of." I lean forward. Then she should have left me something to take care of. His silence is answer enough. When he leaves, I record the entire exchange from memory. I date it. Time, tone, everything. Words may fade, but ink remembers. I've started dressing differently. It's strange how the right clothes can become armor. Gone are the soft florals and pastel sweaters. Now I wear dark colors: navy, charcoal, forest green. Lydia calls it funeral chic. She doesn't realize who the funeral is for. The recordings accumulate. Helen reviews them every week. She never comments on my growing precision, how I now label files by emotional tone, cross-reference them with timestamps. She simply says, "You're good at this." I want to tell her I had a lifetime of practice pretending everything was fine. That's all motherhood is, really, perfecting the art of quiet endurance. But endurance without direction is decay. Now I have direction. Lydia begins to sense something. Perhaps the shift in my voice, the way my eyes hold hers longer than before. "Mom," she says one afternoon, frowning, "you've been different lately, distracted." "Just tired." "Tired of what?" I smile. "Of being quiet." She doesn't like that answer. Her face hardens briefly. Then she changes the subject. But I notice her glance toward my desk drawer. The one I've started locking. Helen calls that evening. She'll start tightening her controls soon, cutting off your access, framing it as concern. Be ready. I already am, I say. It's true. I've duplicated every file 3 times. One on the cloud, one on a flash drive in the freezer, one in a sealed envelope addressed to a journalist friend from my charity days. If Lydia burns my world, she'll find the ashes spelling her name. At Sunday brunch, she tries a new tactic. "I was talking to Dr. Patel," she says sweetly, "and he thinks it might be good to have you evaluated for mild cognitive decline, just to make sure you're okay." I look at her calmly. "Do I seem unwell to you?" She hesitates, smiles too fast. "Of course not, but these things are easier to catch early." "Like forgery." Her fork freezes midair. Then she laughs. "Mom, you have such a dark sense of humor." "I learned from you." Her friends chuckle awkwardly. She tries to brush it off. but I see the faint tremor in her hand. Fear tastes sweet when it's quiet. After they leave, I pull the curtain aside and watch them drive away. Daniel looks out the window. His eyes meet mine just for a second. There's pity there, or warning. Either way, I no longer need his concern. Because pity is for the powerless. And I am no longer powerless. Helen and I meet again, this time in her office. The walls are lined with framed degrees and certificates. Proof. I've come to love proof. It's immune to manipulation. She slides a folder toward me. "We're ready," she says. "The transfer documents, the altered will, the recorded calls, it's airtight." I run my hand over the folder. "Not yet," I whisper. She raises an eyebrow. "You want more?" I want her to reveal herself, publicly, to everyone she's fooled. Helen studies me for a long moment, then she nods. "Then we'll wait." Patience, my oldest virtue, newly repurposed. The next few weeks, I host dinners again, something I haven't done since Arthur died. Lydia's thrilled. She thinks it means I'm forgiving her. I cook her favorites. I pour the wine myself. I let her talk about her business ventures, her investments, her plans. She believes she's the star of the evening. She doesn't realize she's the exhibit. Every dinner, I invite someone new, an old friend, a local official, a banker, a former neighbor. Each one, a future witness. Each laugh, a timestamp. By the third dinner, I can see the arrogance bloom again in her smile. She's confident, careless, glowing. Exactly as I need her to be. Sometimes, I almost pity her. She inherited my ambition but none of my restraint. Arthur used to say, "The tide never roars when it's coming for you, it whispers." Now I understand. I'm the tide. And she's standing barefoot on the shore, admiring her reflection in the water, not realizing how quickly it recedes before it swallows. At night, when I replay her recordings, her laughter fills the room. I no longer feel pain when I hear her voice, only purpose. I imagine the moment she'll realize it, when she'll see herself through my eyes, through the world's eyes. Not as a daughter, but as a thief dressed in love. I close the recorder and whisper, "Let the storm come." The house creaks, wind whispering against the windows, and for a second I swear it breathes with me. The air tastes like thunder waiting for a name. The night began with violins. That's how most polite disasters do, with music and champagne. The city hall was lit in gold, chandeliers trembling slightly from the hum of air conditioning. It was Lydia's charity gala, her newest vanity project. Hearts for Heritage. The irony could have fed the poor she claimed to represent. I arrived precisely at 7, pearls fastened, posture straight. Helen said presentation was part of warfare, people listen better to elegance. So I became elegant again. The makeup hid my sleeplessness. The smile hid everything else. "Mother, you made it." Lydia glided toward me, sequins glimmering like armor. She kissed my cheek, perfumed air brushing skin. "We've got a perfect seat for you by the stage." "Front row?" I asked. Of course. Exactly where I wanted to be. The first hour passed in speeches. Benefactors applauded themselves, photographers clicked. I sipped water and waited, invisible in plain sight. The evidence packet sat quietly in my clutch, the size of a paperback but heavier than any weapon. Helen's instructions had been simple. Let her trap herself. She would. Lydia could never resist a microphone. When she finally took the stage, applause burst like fireworks. She looked radiant, 38 years old, powerful, untouchable. "Thank you, everyone," she began, her voice sweetened for cameras. "This event is about legacy, about the sacrifices our parents made so we could build the future." I nearly laughed. The room glowed with false virtue. Beside me, Daniel clapped, though his knuckles were white. He knew, or guessed. Men like him always sense the approaching storm a heartbeat before it breaks. My cue came halfway through dinner. Helen's message buzzed softly in my purse. Now. I rose, slowly, deliberately, like an old woman stretching. The microphone waited at the side of the stage, the same one Lydia had just left to mingle among donors. I asked the master of ceremonies for a moment to speak. My voice was gentle, unthreatening. No one refuses a mother at her daughter's gala. Just a few words of gratitude, I said. Lydia turned, smiling politely, uncertain. She thought this would be sentimental, a tribute, perhaps, to her success. If only. I took the stage. The spotlight felt hot, merciless. I looked out across a sea of faces, neighbors, business partners, reporters, and then at Lydia. Her expression softened into wary affection. I began quietly. When Arthur and I built our first home, we kept every receipt, every letter. Paper keeps you honest, he'd say. A few polite laughs. I continued. I've spent the past year organizing those papers, and I found more than memories. A flicker in the audience, a rustle, Lydia's smile thinned. Behind me, Helen appeared near the projector booth, giving a subtle nod. The first slide illuminated the wall, a property deed. My signature beside a second, Lydia's, dated after my supposed authorization. The crowd murmured. I spoke calmly, each word deliberate. This document, ladies and gentlemen, shows the sale of my beach house, a sale I never consented to. My daughter filed it using power of attorney papers I never signed. Gasps rippled. Cameras clicked like insects feeding. Lydia stepped forward, voice trembling with charm. Mother, there's been a misunderstanding. I lifted a hand. There have been many. Allow me to clarify them all. Slide 2, bank transfers. Slide 3, the audio clip of her voice saying, keep quiet until everything's finalized. Each revelation was a wave breaking over the room, steady, unstoppable. Lydia's friends stared as if seeing her for the first time. Her husband's hand slipped from hers slowly, like confession. Mom, please, she whispered. Her makeup cracked beneath the stage lights. I will, I said softly. Please what? I turned back to the crowd. I raised a daughter who believed compassion was currency. That love was something you could mortgage. I taught her to sign her name with confidence. She taught me what a signature can steal. The room was silent now. Not a glass clinked. Truth has a weight no music can carry. I let the final slide play. Her emails to the bank manager, requests for authorization, attachments in my name. Stamped, verified, undeniable. Lydia's voice rose, thin, panicked. She's confused. She doesn't know what she's doing. You all know how forgetful she's been. But Helen stepped forward from the side, flashing her bar license. I'm her legal counsel, and her medical records show perfect cognitive health. The audience shifted, a collective turn toward the villain unmasked. Flashbulbs erupted. Someone started filming on their phone. Lydia froze. Her mouth moved, but no sound came. The truth had stolen her language. I spoke again, quieter now because quiet forces listening. I am not angry at my daughter. Anger implies attachment. I am merely removing my name from what no longer belongs to me. I turned to her then. Lydia, you wanted the inheritance early. Congratulations. You just received your reputation in advance. A collective intake of breath, then silence. I stepped down from the stage. The room felt too bright, too real. For a moment my legs trembled, not with fear, but release. Reporters approached. Questions buzzed like flies. Mrs. Fairchild, did you plan this? Is it true your daughter forged documents? I smiled. Everything you need to know is on record. Helen guided me through the crowd as security escorted Lydia out the side door. Her heels clicked against the floor, the sound of privilege retreating. Outside, the night air was sharp, tasting of metal and rain. Helen handed me a copy of the press release. The headlines would run by morning. Socialite accused of defrauding mother. I ought to have felt triumph. Instead, I felt something colder, quieter, the hollow after thunder. Are you all right? Helen asked. I'm complete, I said. Completion and peace are not the same. At home, I removed my pearls one by one. Each click against the dish was a chapter ending. The house felt different, cleaner. Even the walls seemed to exhale. I sat by the window and watched the news coverage flicker across neighboring windows like tiny confessions. Her photo, my name, the word forgery. I wondered if she was watching too. Daniel called once. I let the machine answer. His voice was low, broken. "She's saying you set her up." I whispered to the empty room. "She set herself." Then I deleted the message. 2 days later, the financial police visited Lydia's office. Helen handled the statements. I stayed home and made tea. There was no need to watch. Justice does its work quietly, like rot or growth. The gala video went viral within a week. Thousands shared it. An elderly woman exposes daughter for fraud live on stage. Some called me hero, some called me monster. Both felt accurate. I walked through the garden the next morning. The air smelled of wet soil and clean paper. I thought of Arthur. He'd have hated the spectacle, but he'd have understood the necessity. Because some truths must be performed to be believed. A letter arrived by week's end. No return address, but I knew the handwriting. Lydia. "You humiliated me. You could have talked to me." I read it once, then again. Every sentence was a mirror reflecting her own sins in reverse. I wrote back. "I did talk to you. You just kept signing over my words." I didn't send it. Some letters exist only for closure. The following Sunday, a reporter from the Chronicle called. "Mrs. Fairchild, may we feature your story under Justice at any age?" "No," I said. "Justice isn't a story, it's a receipt." He laughed, not understanding. Evenings are quiet now. I cook small meals, read old books. Sometimes I hear a car pause outside, hers maybe. I don't look. Let the ghost of her hover. The recordings, the files, the proof, they rest in a safe deposit box. Untouched. A museum of betrayal. People say revenge ages you. They're wrong. It preserves, it keeps you sharp when grief wants to blur you. When I walk past mirrors now, I see no victim. Only a curator of truth, tending her exhibit. The storm has passed, they'd say. But storms don't pass. They move inside you, learning your rooms. Every gust a memory, every raindrop a proof. And sometimes, when the house is still, I swear I hear applause echoing from the walls, soft, steady, endless, as if truth itself is still clapping for its performance. Something knocks faintly inside the mirror glass, as if the reflection has found its voice and is waiting to speak next. It's been 6 months since the gala. Long enough for the headlines to fade, but not long enough for whispers to stop. They still follow Lydia in restaurants, in meetings, in the online shadows where people build new versions of truth. I no longer follow the noise. I don't have to. It always circles back eventually. Truth has the loyalty of the tide. It retreats, yes, but only to gather strength before returning. The beach house stands again unsold. The court froze the transfer, and the judge's gavel landed with a sound that felt like thunder inside my bones. Lydia wasn't there to hear it. Her lawyer attended in her place. I did attend, quietly, in my pearls. The deed came back to me in a thin brown envelope. Just my name this time. No additions, no footnotes. Ownership returned like breath after drowning. I arrive on a fog-soaked morning. The key is cold in my hand, and for a moment, I hesitate. The sea murmurs behind the dunes like it's waiting to see if I'll come back inside its story. When the lock turns, the door groans, familiar, forgiving. Dust motes rise, catching in the light like tiny ghosts. Everything smells faintly of salt and absence. The furniture's gone, the windows uncurtained, the walls stripped. But the bones of the house are here, the ones Arthur built. I can still trace his measurements carved faintly into the doorframe. June 1982, Margaret plus A. Time has softened them, but not erased them. I walk through each room slowly. My footsteps echo in the empty spaces where laughter used to live. The kitchen remembers our breakfasts, his paper, my coffee. The living room remembers Lydia at 16, screaming that I didn't understand her. She was right. I didn't understand that love, unguarded, can turn into currency. Upstairs, the master bedroom faces the sea. The view hasn't changed. The ocean keeps its secrets better than people do. I open the balcony door. Wind rushes in, sharp and cold, cutting through the stillness like truth through denial. I let it in. Let it fill the room, scatter dust, erase scent. I've learned that cleansing isn't always gentle. Sometimes it stings. Downstairs, I unpack a single suitcase. Just clothes, a book, my notebook, the same one where I recorded everything. The cover is worn, corners curled. The last page ends with the words, "She thought she could rewrite me, but I am the author." I close it and place it on the mantel. Let it rest. People still ask why I did it that way, public, humiliating, unforgiving. I never correct them, let them think it was vengeance. They wouldn't understand that vengeance burns, but revelation cleanses. You can't punish someone who's already hollow. You can only show the world the echo inside them. At night, I light one candle in the front window. It's an old habit, something Arthur and I did whenever one of us was away. A signal, I'm here, come home safe. There's no one left to see it now, but light is its own witness. I still get letters from Lydia. The first were angry, then pleading, then distant, almost detached, written like business correspondence. I reply to none. Forgiveness isn't denial, it's distance. Once I received a note from Daniel. Short, hesitant, she's not well, she talks to the ocean now. I stared at it for a long time, then folded it neatly and placed it in the drawer. I don't hate her, I simply stopped protecting her from herself. That, I think, is the truest mercy left. The beach is colder now than I remember. I walk barefoot anyway. The sand is soft and damp beneath my feet, clinging at first, then falling away. The tide is low, the air sharp with salt. I collect shells the way I used to, one for each choice I no longer regret. By the end of the walk, I have 10. I bury them near the steps. Not a ritual, just acknowledgement. The horizon glows faintly pink as the sun sets, slow and deliberate, like it's reluctant to leave. Inside, I make tea on the old gas stove. The kettle still whistles the same. I pour it into Arthur's mug, chipped but loyal. I sit by the window and watch the sea darken. Waves curl, collapse, and rise again, endlessly persistent. That's what truth is. Endless persistence. It doesn't need to shout. It just keeps returning until everything false is washed away. I think often of the word reclamation. People confuse it with revenge, but they're not the same. Revenge is fire it consumes, demands witness. Reclamation is water. It erodes quietly, reforms the shoreline until you recognize yourself again. I didn't destroy my daughter. I simply stopped sheltering her lies from the weather. And when the storm hit, she blamed the sea. I find myself speaking to Arthur again sometimes, out loud now. I did what you would have done, I tell the walls, only slower. He doesn't answer, of course, but the house shifts, a sigh through the rafters, a window creaking slightly open. Sometimes silence replies more honestly than words ever could. The local paper published a follow-up story last month. Hearts for Heritage founder resigns amid financial misconduct investigation. They didn't mention me. That's how you know justice worked, when it no longer needs your name attached. I cut the article out anyway and place it inside my notebook, between the pages of evidence. Not as proof of victory, as documentation of closure. Paper once took everything from me. Now it returns what it owes. Occasionally, people stop by the property, old friends, neighbors curious to see how I'm holding up. They bring flowers, sometimes pastries. I thank them, smile, and let them talk. They tell me I'm brave. I tell them bravery is just another name for waiting long enough to stop shaking. When they leave, I sit outside again and listen to the waves. The ocean doesn't applaud. It doesn't comfort. It just exists, ancient, impartial. That's enough. At night, I dream differently. No longer of betrayal, but of stillness. In one dream, Lydia is small again, hair tangled from salt water, running down this very beach shouting, "Look, Mommy, I found treasure." She opens her hand. Inside is nothing but wet sand. I wake up smiling, because maybe, in some way, she's still that child somewhere, endlessly searching, believing the next handful will hold something that lasts. I keep the recorder in a drawer. I haven't pressed play since the trial. I know what her voice sounds like. I don't need to hear it to remember. But sometimes, when the house creaks, I imagine it's that old tape rewinding itself, looping endlessly in the silence. Let it loop. Let the past replay quietly, harmlessly. It no longer owns me. This morning, I walked the shoreline again. The sea was calm, the color of forgiveness. I found a small glass bottle washed ashore, smooth, pale green. Inside, a scrap of paper too wet to read. I held it up to the light. No words, just the faint outline of handwriting that time had erased. A message sent too late to matter. I threw it back. The horizon is clear now. The air carries the scent of seaweed and rain. I stand outside as dusk gathers and let the tide come close enough to touch my toes. Cold, alive, unafraid. This place doesn't feel haunted anymore. It feels corrected. For the first time in years, I speak the words out loud. This is mine. They don't echo. They land solid like the tide claiming the shore. I still write in my notebook sometimes. Small things, observations, recipes, lists. But the last page remains blank. Not because there's nothing left to say, but because some endings don't belong in ink. I've learned that silence can finish what words cannot. Outside, the candle burns in the window. It flickers, bends, straightens again. I watch until the flame steadies. The sea breathes in, the sea breathes out. And somewhere beyond the horizon, another storm gathers for someone else. I am no longer afraid of weather. Because I've already survived the kind that wears a human face. I walk to the balcony, the night air damp and electric. The moon hangs low, brushing the water with silver. I can almost see my reflection ripple across the waves, softer, calmer, belonging entirely to me. Somewhere inland, in a city full of lights, Lydia exists in her own quiet now. I hope she finds something to build that isn't made from theft. I hope she learns what real inheritance is, not property, not power, but truth. I hope, but I no longer wait. The candle burns lower. The sea keeps time. The house hums quietly around me, its bones strong again. And for the first time in a very long time, I sleep without dreams. Outside, the tide rises, slow, deliberate, endless, and the waves whisper like turning pages, as though the ocean itself is closing the book.